Tapes of Trepidation presents the Campfire Sessions. Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to the Campfire Sessions. I'm so happy you've come back to join me by the campfire as more creepy stories are shared. Do you remember the first time you ever heard a creepy campfire story? Maybe it was the story of a man in the back seat, the call coming from inside the house. I, for one, am partial to the vanishing hitchhiker. Urban legends hold a special place in the hearts of those who share scary stories around a campfire. And tonight, we'll be diving into 3 unique and creepy stories that all share urban legends. Starting with a terrifying tale of how something at the window that seems rather harmless may be anything but. This is the story of the owl at 1 a.m. It was 1 a.m. I'm almost never asleep by midnight. Why, you ask? Because I spend my afternoons indulging myself, watching TV shows, reading comics, playing games, anything but studying. So, I always end up cramming late at night, struggling to stay awake the next day. It's a cycle, one that won't end unless I finally learn to manage my time. Despite this unhealthy habit, I've never failed a subject. Maybe that's why I keep doing it. I convince myself that cramming for a few hours is better than not studying at all. Well, that's my excuse for this never-ending cycle. Anyway, that night, I was hunched over my desk, reviewing for tomorrow's quiz under the soft glow of my lamp, when something landed outside my bedroom window. I didn't hear it. My headphones were on, lo-fi music humming in my ears. But even if I hadn't been wearing them, I doubt I would have noticed. Owls are known for their silent flight. And besides, my hearing isn't great to begin with. I only saw it because I happened to glance outside. My breath hitched. A pale face stared back at me through the glass. For a split second, my mind screamed, "There's someone there!" I nearly knocked my lamp over as I jerked in my seat. But then, I exhaled, feeling ridiculous. It wasn't a person. It was just an owl. A barn owl, to be exact. Dark, beady eyes. A small, sharp beak. And that ghostly white face. I let out a shaky laugh. God, I was jumpy. The owl, however, didn't move. It simply stared, tilting its head slightly, calm, unbothered. Did it blink? Maybe. It was hard to tell in the dark. I rubbed my arms, suddenly aware of the chill creeping in from the window. I had never seen an owl land outside my bedroom before. Strangely enough, I found its presence reassuring. Maybe because I finally had company in the middle of the night. I live alone. And while I enjoy my solitude, I guess there are moments when I miss having someone around. Not that I'm lonely. I have friends. Sometimes they come over after a night out. They drink. I don't. I'm always the responsible one. The dad of the group. I love to dance, though. So I still go clubbing with them. But when it's past midnight, it's just me. Which is why I appreciated the owl staying. Even if it was just for a little while. Eventually, I smiled and turned back to my notes. The next night, I was back at my desk, following the same routine. Lamp on, lo-fi music playing, eyes glued to my textbook. At some point, I glanced at the clock. 1 a.m. The owl crossed my mind. On a whim, I looked toward the window. And to my surprise, it was there again. This time its back was facing me. I hesitated, then knocked gently on the glass. The owl turned its head, a smooth, almost too fluid motion. But I wasn't scared. In fact, I was happy to see it again. I smiled. Hello. It didn't react much. Did it blink? I still couldn't tell. But somehow, it felt like it was acknowledging me. I found that cute. I mean, don't you think friendly interactions with wild animals are cute? Or was it just me? Anyway, I went back to studying. And many nights went on just like that. A week had passed, and every night, at exactly 1 a.m., the owl was there. It felt like a little ritual, something familiar in my otherwise solitary nights. But after a while, the familiarity turned into something else. Something I couldn't quite place. Maybe it was the way it never moved. Not once had I seen it arrive nor leave. I never caught it flapping its wings, never saw its head turn in the smooth, twitching way that owls do. No, it was just there, perched in the same spot, unmoving, watching me. One night, I decided to test it. At 12:50 a.m., I sat at my desk, preparing to study. But my eyes kept flickering to the window. The glass reflected my dimly lit room, but outside was nothing but darkness. I kept waiting. I kept waiting. 12:55, 12:58. Then, at exactly 1 a.m., I looked up, and there it was. My chest tightened. How had it gotten there without making a sound? I swallowed hard and shook my head. It's just an owl. Owls are silent flyers. That's normal. But that didn't explain why I never saw it come or go. And it didn't explain the eyes. They were always so empty. No shine, no reflection, no sign of life. Like glass beads. The thought made my skin crawl. That night, I shut my curtains for the first time. I told myself I was being silly, that I was overthinking. But even as I lay in my bed, staring at the faint glow of my lamp against the fabric. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I barely slept. The next night, I hesitated before going to my desk. I told myself it didn't matter whether the owl was there or not. I just needed to study. Still, my hands felt cold as I reached for the curtains. I pulled them open. The owl was closer. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't on the window ledge anymore. It was pressed against the glass so that I could see the faint outline of its pale face, distorted by the reflection of my lamp. My pulse pounded in my ears. For the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt before. I felt trapped. Like if I turned my back, it would find a way inside. I forced myself to move, to act normal. I turned away and sat at my desk, staring at my book, pretending not to notice. I didn't look up again for the rest of the night. But I could feel it. Even with my head down, my body refused to relax. The weight of its presence sat heavy on my shoulders, like cold fingers pressing into my skin. I tried to focus, read a sentence, highlight a word, take a note. But my brain kept whispering, "What if it moves?" The thought made my stomach twist. No, I wasn't going to look. I wasn't going to give in to the paranoia. I forced myself to keep studying until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. Then, finally, I shut my books, turned off my lamp, and crawled into bed. The window was behind me. I lay stiffly, my hands gripping the blanket, my back to the glass. My room was silent except for the hum of my headphones, but my ears strained for something else. A tap, a rustle, a breath. Nothing. I squeezed my eyes shut. It's just an owl. Go to sleep. But sleep never came easily that night. When my alarm woke me up the next morning, my body ached like I had been bracing for something all night. I sat up slowly, groggy, exhausted. My curtains were still open, the window streaked with faint smudges. Like something, or someone, had been pressed against it for a long time. I told myself I wouldn't check the window again. But the next night, the feeling of being watched was unbearable. Even with the curtains shut, I couldn't concentrate. My chest was tight, my skin prickling. The apartment felt unnervingly silent, as if the world outside had gone still, just waiting. It was worse now that I couldn't see it. I tried to reason with myself. It's just an owl. Maybe I imagined the smudges on the glass. Maybe I'm overthinking. But what if I wasn't? I needed to see, just for a second, just to put my mind at ease. Then, an idea struck me. I had a small battery-powered floodlight in my closet, something I bought months ago, thinking I'd use it for late-night walks. I never did, but now it had a purpose. I grabbed it, opened my window just enough to slip my hand out, and stuck the light to the outside wall. A motion sensor. If something moved out there, the light would turn on. I exhaled shakily and shut the window. And then I waited. At exactly 1 a.m., I felt it. That pressure, that awareness. I swallowed, staring at the curtain. I couldn't see anything, but I knew it was there. My fingers trembled as I reached for my phone. I tapped into an old app I barely used anymore. A cheap night vision filter. It wasn't much, but it amplified low light. I could barely hear my breath. The air feeling heavier with every passing second. I switched it on. For a moment, the screen was just faint static and shadows. Then the motion light flicked on. I stopped breathing. Outside my window, standing perfectly still, was not an owl. It was a man, dressed in all black, his face hidden beneath the unmistakable mask of a barn owl. I dropped my phone. The light clicked off, leaving me in darkness. The sudden void swallowed the room whole, leaving nothing but the relentless, suffocating silence. In the dark, I could almost feel him waiting. Just on the other side. Friend of the show and purveyor of all things spooky and strange, Madame Strangeways, joined us by the campfire to share a story that inspired such films as The Blair Witch Project and An American Haunting. The chilling tale of the Bell Witch.
As a forewarning to all who wish to continue listening, know that what I am about to tell you is a true story. Denial will hold no comfort for you, and in this case, ignorance is probably bliss. In 1817, a man named John Bell purchased a large amount of farmland in Robertson County, Tennessee. Shortly after having moved onto the property, Bell shot a strange animal in his cornfield, described as having the head of a rabbit and the body of a dog. The occurrence baffled local doctors, as such a thing shouldn't even be possible. As time passed, the family began to hear gnawing, hacking, and knocking noises coming from outside the house. Eventually, the noises came inside with no apparent source of the sounds. It wasn't long after that tremors began to shake the property, an event that again seemed impossible to men of science. After a while, faint whispers began to haunt the family, growing ever louder over time. They haunted the Bells and all visitors, scaring most people away before they even reached the house. After a while, John Bell decided he had had enough. He called in a priest to try to cleanse the land. This was a grave mistake. The spirit laughed at the holy man's petty attempts to stop it and turned violent. Tables and chairs were thrown at him even as he held a crucifix in holy water. Could it be that God himself was powerless to this monster? The priest survived, but received 6 stitches and many broken bones. Whatever the priest had done seemed to enrage the dark presence. It made frequent attacks on the family, whether by controlling inanimate objects or by striking them with an unseen force. At all times, however, the family knew they were not safe. As one can imagine, word of these events traveled quickly. Many visited the farm to see if there really were voices and tremors, but left quickly upon experiencing either. One brave skeptic chose to stay the night and was welcomed to the guest room in the house. As he was falling asleep, he claimed to have felt a strange presence crawl up next to him in the bed. Frightened, he hastily tried to use his blankets like a net and threw the presence into the fireplace. What happened then is best quoted by John Bell's journal. I was sharply awakened by the most horrid of screams coming from the guest room. Upon entering the room, they found a trail of blood leading away from the fireplace and outside the room, though the screams remained. All hints of doubt had been erased from the mind of their guest as he briskly left the premises. As the situation grew ever more bleak, John Bell's health began to deteriorate. He suffered from a number of severe, inexplicable ailments, from facial seizures to internal necrosis. The doctor gave him medicine to help ease the pain of his passing. One day, they found him lying dead on his bed. It seemed someone had switched out his medicine for poison. Even at his funeral, the presence did not let up. It mocked the family, laughing at them and making snide remarks like, I fixed him. Even to this day, John Bell is the only obituary classified as murder by a ghost. It is said that if you go to the property today, you can still feel a dark, malicious presence, though it is significantly tamer today than it once was. So what was it about John Bell that made him a target? He was a seemingly normal man with a seemingly normal family. Yet, for some reason, the presence haunted him to his death. Why did it go through so much effort just to torment and kill one man? And worst of all, what's to stop it from happening again?
Our final tale this evening is a short but rather gruesome urban legend about a young man who met a horrible fate after being involved with a married woman. It's said his terrifying visage now haunts the very place he died at. This is the story of Skinned Tom. In life, Tom was a good-looking guy who liked the ladies. Once he dated all the available girls in the area, he started seeing a girl in the next town, not knowing she was married. Eventually, her husband got wind of what was going on and vowed revenge on the two of them. He told his wife he was going out of town for the weekend, then hid in the woods behind their house. As he'd guessed, that evening Tom showed up to take the lady out. The husband followed them to the nearby Lover's Lane. Things were getting pretty hot and heavy, if you know what I mean, when all of a sudden the car door was jerked open, and Tom came face to face with one very huge, very angry-looking dude wielding a hunting knife. "Oh no!" screamed the girl, who had started all the trouble in the first place. "It's my husband!" "That's right, you cheating whore!" yelled her husband. "And I'm about to teach you a lesson you'll never forget." He pulled her off Tom, rammed the knife into her stomach once, and tossed her aside. Then he turned back to Tom, grinning manically. "Don't hurt me," Tom begged. "I swear to God I didn't even know she was married." But the wronged husband didn't listen. He dragged Tom out of the car and skinned him alive with the hunting knife. Then he went to town and turned himself in to the police. When the police arrived at the crime scene, they found the woman, who was miraculously still alive. But Tom was nowhere to be found. They say he is still hanging around Lover's Lane, waiting to catch a couple and teach them the same lesson his girlfriend's husband taught him. He's described as a bloody skeleton in 20s clothing, carrying the knife he himself was skinned with. All the teenagers around here grew up hearing, "Don't go to Lover's Lane if you don't want to be Skin Tom's next victim." Thank you so much for joining me this evening for the second edition of the Campfire Sessions, here on Tapes of Trepidation. I hope you had as much fun as I did sitting around the campfire while these stories are shared. The stories featured on this edition were The Owl at 1 a.m., written by Borndo. It was originally posted on the ScaryStories subreddit. Narrated with author's permission. The Bell Witch is a retelling of the classic urban legend by famous Asian man and was originally posted on the Creepypasta wiki. Guest narration and dialogue editing was by Madame Strangeways. You can check out Madame Strangeways' podcast in which she explores the world of chilling non-fiction stories wherever you get your podcast. Just search Madame Strangeways or check out the link in the show notes. The story of Skin Tom was a retelling of the legend by Oathu. I apologize if I'm butchering that. It was originally posted on the Villains wiki. The Tapes of Trepidation theme and the wonderful acoustic version you're currently hearing was written and performed by JM Scherf. If you need any custom music or stock music, JM is the man and is awesome to work with. You'll find a link to all his content in the show notes. All logos, banners, overlays, including the brand new Campfire Sessions overlay, were done by the incredible Jason Rees from Jaybird Digital Arts. If you need any kind of graphic design work done, Jason is your guy. You'll find a link to contact him in the show notes. If you enjoyed what you heard today, consider subscribing, leaving a rating, and following Tapes of Trepidation on social media. You can find a link tree in the show notes. And if for some reason this is your first time with us with the Campfire Sessions, be sure to check out all of the other content, as things are usually done a little differently here on Tapes of Trepidation. If you feel like supporting the show a little more, consider joining the Tapes of Trepidation Patreon. With as little as $5 a month, you can gain access to monthly bonus short story narrations, the weekly behind-the-scenes podcast within the archive, a weekly shout-out, and more at higher tiers. Come, join us, and become trapped within the archive. Just like my current patrons, Doozer Pindan, Ronan Kamori, Eric Phones, Patrick Stewart, Madame Strangeways, Dr. Torment, Tori, and Queen Cam. Thank you all so much for the support. All content used on Tapes of Trepidation is either original, used with permission, or is available on your Creative Commons share-alike license. All rights reserved unless otherwise stated. Licensing information can be found in the show notes. Now, I think it's best you head out for the night, as the fire is starting to die out, and you never know what may be lurking in the dark nearby. Hope to see you next time.